Hello everyone, how you doing today? I want to teach you about the 5 reports you have to know to run a successful moving business. Now, these reports are not just something a moving business has to know, they're universal. These reports will translate to almost every single business that you operate. So stay tuned for some exciting news. Hi guys, I'm Jay Burnham with the Real Jay Burnham, and I thank you for coming back to the Real Jay Burnham Show. All right, so to get into it, I want to talk to you about knowing your numbers, knowing your profit and loss statement, your revenue statement, etc. To run a successful business or any business, to run a successful moving business or any business, you have to know your numbers. You have to know what your profit and loss statement is saying to you each and every month. Now, I've been guilty of letting it go myself when I first started. Even sometimes now I let it go and I get to let it get away from me. But if you're going to run a successful business, you cannot do that. You've got to stay on top of your revenue. You got to know what's coming in and what's going out and the percentages thereof and therefore, because believe it or not, you're going to have some people that are not necessarily the most trustworthy that are going to try to take advantage of your finances, employees, etc. So by knowing these things, you can actually prevent you being ripped off or you bleeding money in areas that is actually costing you money where you actually don't need to be putting so much money. Okay, and we're going to talk about the 5 distinct reports you have to know like the back of your hand. You need to know it like you know your name. All right. But before we get into let's talk about actually keeping track of your accounting, keeping track of the numbers. When I started, and even still today, my system was I would put all my receipts and all my completed job reforms into a box, and then I would have a young lady or some. I even had a couple guys one time work for me that knew bookkeeping, and I would have them keep the books for me. They would make up folders of the completed jobs and put them away, tape the receipts to a piece of paper and put them in the folder along with the bank statement and so on and so forth, and then they would reconcile it against my QuickBooks program. All right. So you have to make sure that you're keeping track of this. I don't care if you're doing it yourself or if you're hiring somebody to do it, it does need to get done. Now, a little bit of advice, I would suggest that you learn how to do it yourself before you decide to hire somebody. You, especially if you're just starting off, you're really small, you're not getting all that jobs, maybe you're getting 5, 10 jobs a month. That is perfectly fine to keep your accounting in yourself. Now, accounting is pretty basic. I mean, you could get more complex, but it's basically the same thing as keeping a checkbook. Every time you send money out, you got to write it down in the ledger. Every time you get money in, you got to write it down in the ledger. And then what is the balance and keep that running balance up to snuff. Now, if by doing it yourself for the first year or so, then you'll get a good idea of what it takes to put your finances in. It'll also give you a good idea when you do bring somebody in to what to keep track of and keep an eye on so the person that's doing your books isn't making mistakes or worst case scenario, stealing from you. Now, I'm not saying all my bookkeepers were horrible, but I've had some that were not necessarily the most upstanding individuals and they stole from me. So you've got to make sure that you know your numbers because what happened with me is I hired this young lady and I would tell her to keep the books, have her run the books. Unfortunately, she had access to all my files plus my checkbook, and she brought in her aunt one time and she gave her aunt a bunch of my checks and they went out and started writing a bunch of bad checks all across the city in thousands of dollars worth. they got caught. I quickly got a hold of it. When I started seeing all these bounce checks coming, I was like, what's going on? And I was able to catch it very quickly. And they both went to jail for a couple of years for that. However, if I wasn't on top of my books, that could have been a very, very bad thing for me. All right, so that's something you got to keep in the back of your mind. Okay, so that way you should know. Do it for the first year so you know what you're doing. Take an accounting class if you can. Go to the local community college, or if there's other classes that you can do, find an accountant that gives classes, but take a beginner's accounting class first. Now, once you do that, I also would suggest you take a class in QuickBooks. QuickBooks is supposed to be a great program, and it is, but it's sometimes not that easy to figure out. And if you don't know how to put figures in, then it's really, really confusing. That way, I suggest you go and you take a beginner's class in QuickBooks. And then once you've done that, I would suggest you get QuickBooks and enter all your stuff into QuickBooks. Because once it's entered into QuickBooks, you can have all the reports at your fingertips, and it's really easy to keep track of. Another thing I would recommend is that you would hook up your business checking account and savings account in with your QuickBooks program. That way, you know what's literally in your bank account at all times. And when you write a check, you'll know if that check's good or not, and so that you can prevent writing bad checks. Because if you're just trying to what's in the bank, sometimes banks have delays of, like, you might write a check and an employee might not cash that check for like 2-3 weeks, which has happened to me. And you're thinking, okay, they cashed it as soon as they could, but they actually didn't cash it for 3 weeks, and then you actually spend that money. But if you were keeping it into a good accounting system like QuickBooks, or knowing your accounting system, you would know, hey, we still have these outstanding balances that need to clear the bank yet, and you won't write bad checks. You see where I'm going for it? So the first thing you have to do is actually put in the system for keeping your accounting first. By doing that, then you can keep track of these 10, why did I put these 5 reports that I'm about ready to go off, okay? So now that we know that we got to put the accounting in and keep it in, and we got to do it daily, weekly, monthly, and then ultimately yearly, so that your accountant can do your weekly taxes. Now we can move on to the 5 reports you actually have to have. And your first report you have to have is your overall profit and loss statement. Now, it isn't good enough to keep track of your profit and loss statement every year. You've got to keep track of your profit and loss statement weekly and monthly. That way you know how much your money you're bringing in and how much you're making, and you can adjust quickly. The more, like I said, if you know how to do the counting, you can actually see what's going on, and using these numbers, you can remedy some of the bad problems very, very quickly. So the first report you have to have and know is the profit and loss report. Okay? If you're running at a negative the first week of the month, then you know that there's probably a situation and you need to figure out what it is, and you can get it remedied. Maybe it was an accounting error, maybe someone's stealing from you, or maybe you just overspent and didn't realize what you had done. But this would actually help you figure that out so that you can fix that very, very quickly and get it handled, okay? The second thing you need to know, the second report, is your marketing report. You got to know what's the return on investment with your marketing. For instance, if you're spending $5,000 on marketing, do you know exactly where that marketing money is going? Is it going to Yellow Pages? Is it going to buying leads from some third-party broker service? Is it on postcards? Is it on Facebook ads? Where's the money going? And if you don't know exactly how much money is going to which place, and actually what's bringing in the leads for you, the proper leads, then you cannot make adjustments in on the marketing, and that's actually going to cost you money down the road. What I do is I have what's called an intake sheet, and I ask every single customer, how did you hear about us? And they'll say, oh, I found you online. I was Googling movers and I found you. Okay, great. Or found you on a Facebook ad, or found you on Craigslist, or found you on the Yellow Pages. Good. By knowing this and knowing how much I'm spending in each one of those categories, I now know where my leads are coming from, and I could adjust my monies accordingly. So hypothetically, if I'm running Facebook leads and I'm getting 100 leads every single month, and I'm spending $200 in Facebook ads, and I'm spending $200 in Yellow Pages ads, and I'm only getting one lead from Yellow Pages, but I'm getting 100 leads from Facebook, I can clearly see that what I need to do is not spend $100 in Yellow Pages ads, but then put that money into the Facebook ads and just drop out the Yellow Pages completely. That's actually a true story with my company, and what I have found is true. I actually don't spend money on Yellow Pages ads anymore because it's useless. I might get one or two leads from it, and most of those are not very good leads anyway. So I actually don't put my money in that. I actually put my money in Facebook leads, but I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not been able to keep track of what my marketing is actually resulting in. So you got to know how much money and where it's going in as far as your sales and marketing efforts are going, and how many leads and ultimately sales they are providing for you. Okay. I would say that a typical lead cost you to get a customer in is about $50 to $100 a lead. When you add in all the money. Now you can go and buy leads, and I have a video on this, which I'll put in the description, why you shouldn't buy leads, why it's a waste of money, but you can go and buy leads for $5, $10, $12, $15, sometimes $20 a lead, but they're really crappy leads, and by the time you've actually got a sale from one of those crappy leads, it probably costs you $100 to $200 when it should be costing you about $50, $75 a lead, maybe $100 a lead max per lead. Okay, so that's my suggestion. The next report you have to keep track of is, if you're a beginning company and you don't yet have your own trucks, you've got to know how much money you're spending on rental trucks and fuel. All right. When you got your own trucks, you got to need to know how much those truck costs in maintenance costs and fuel is costing you every month. You've got to know that. If you're having a truck that's causing a lot of issues that you got to replace, and it's constantly down, then you got to figure something out to actually get rid of that truck and get another vehicle. Or if you're doing rentals, how much is it actually costing you in rentals? Me, I use rentals a lot in my business, and I know when I'm doing a local move, I'm going to rent from U-Haul because it's a lot cheaper if I'm moving just within the city. If I'm going a long distance, I'm going to grab a budget truck or a Penske truck, because I've got a corporate rate for that, so I get the mileage is far less. I have a larger daily rate, but my mileage is far, far lower, which ultimately makes it a lot cheaper using a budget or Penske truck long distance, versus if I'm in town where I can use a U-Haul truck. You see where I'm going with this? So you can adjust and go, okay, well, let's see how we can save money in the different rentals. Obviously, you're going to save more money by having your own trucks. So if you are renting trucks for your moving business, by all means, you need to start saving money up as much as you can to purchase your own moving vehicle. Right now, U-Haul is doing trying to get rid of all their old fleet right now, which they go through every 5 or so years. They get rid of their fleet and rebuy a whole new fleet. It's about 5, 6 years. So right now, at least in our area, U-Haul is trying to get rid of a lot of their old fleet. You can pick those trucks up fairly inexpensively, $5, $6, $7,000. They're not the best trucks, but they're not horrible either, and they'll do good for at least your local moves. Okay. The next report you need to keep track of, and you got to know and keep on top of, is your payroll. Believe it or not, your employees are going to try to gouge you every chance they get. They're going to try to say, well, we only worked 4 hours, so I'm going to write an extra 10 minutes here and an extra 10 minutes there. No, you don't let them do an extra 10 minutes or clock in and out and let them just do that, because that adds up. Yeah, it might only be 5, 10 minutes, but that adds up over the years and can result in literally thousands of dollars. Also, you need to keep track of how much time they're actually on the job. If they're doing a job that's an hour and a half away and they've got to drive an hour and a half and come back an hour and a half, you got to know okay, you got to be keeping track of that. So if they're writing down 2 hours for their travel times both ways, and it's only an hour to an hour and a half max, something's up. Okay. You got to keep on top of those labor costs, because they might say, well, it's only 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. But for you as a moving business, that can actually suck thousands, tens of thousands of dollars even out of your bank account every single year. And it can be a make or break point for some of the smaller moving businesses out there, or some of you smaller businesses. So stay on top of the payroll. Stay on top of the time that people are actually clocking in and clocking out is your big time. Also, don't hire people in if they don't have a good work ethic. You got to get rid of people quickly. Fire people quickly. Hire them slowly, fire them quickly. That's my motto on it. You really take your time to hire the good guys, and when you find it that you were wrong, fire them fast, because they will be a drain in your pocketbook. All right. Now, the last report that I think you need to know, inwards and outwards and everything in between, is you need to know that you need to know your sales reports. You need to know how many leads are coming in, how many estimates you're doing, and ultimately how many completed moves you are doing. Those 3 reports are vital. Okay, you've got to know if you're getting 100 leads in and you're doing 50 estimates and you're only doing 10 moves, you got to go, okay, well, those percentages aren't really, really great. So, okay, we're getting 100 leads, but we're only doing 50 estimates. How do we improve that? Is it the salesperson? Is it you who are doing the sales? Maybe you need some more sales training, or maybe you need to know how to give value when you're doing the estimates. Or maybe the person who's doing the estimates is a moron. You don't know. All right. Okay, good. So now out of those estimates, you're only getting 10 completed moves out of those estimates. Maybe that's good for you. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily think that's good, but okay. But let's say you do 10 completed jobs. How can we increase the ratio between the estimates and the actual moves? What is the disconnect with our customers? Is it that our estimates, we're estimating the weight of the job far above our competitors? Is it, is the person who's doing the estimates, do they have body odor? Are they arrogant and rude to the customer? Are they not wiping their feet when they're walking in the door? What is it? What is it that we can do to actually increase that ratio? So those are numbers. I'm just giving you some overall ideas. I'm not saying that is what's wrong with your business or even what was wrong with my business, but I'm just giving you some ideas. Those 5 reports: your profit and loss, your overall profit and loss, your marketing ROI, your truck and fuel costs, your payroll, and your leads, estimates, and completed jobs reports. You've got to know those inside and out, and you should be on top of them every single week, every single month, every single year. Okay, you've got to know. If you could do them, figure them out daily. If you're so busy, you should be doing them daily. Then God bless you. I'm glad you're up to that level. But for most of you who've just starting into this business, you don't know what reports to keep track of. Right? You really truly don't. So maybe this is a good idea. These 5 reports are key to building and running a successful moving company. All right. So hopefully I've given you a good idea. I'm going to leave these down in the description below so that you can read them as well. But if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Right? Like and share this video with all your friends. And of course, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed what I put out here today. God bless. Have a great day.